We have finally adopted new behaviors that are simpler, easier, and based more on our passionate emotions instead of logic, responsibility, or tradition. However, there is still a tiny part of our own mind that is still doubting this new way or being critical of it. In addition, other people who haven't been learning the lesson of the time could also be planting seeds of doubt in our mind and trying to talk us out of what we are doing. That can make us still feel a little confused about what these new behaviors are, hold back, act in weird ways, or be a little restless and anxious. As a result, we're going to need to learn at this full moon in Aries to more permanently change our mindset, as well as the relationships we engage in, to be based more on our passions instead of logic or tradition, and to go all in on them. If we can do that, which I think we can, more things will begin to change in our life for the better, and the pace of it will also begin to accelerate from here on out. Hi, I'm your astrologer, Brittany of Ethereal Astrology, helping you to see the larger story of your life. Today, you're watching your astrology horoscope for the collective for the full moon in the sign of Aries, which occurs on Monday, October 6th, 2025 at 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time or 8:47 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, let's go ahead and let's hop right into it. In order to get started, what I like to do first is to place on the chart what it is that I'll be referring to in this video so that you can see it and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This video is for the full moon in Aries. Because of that, I've adjusted the chart accordingly. We've got the moon here in Aries making an exact opposition over to the sun in Libra. And when the moon exactly opposes the sun, that is what is considered a full moon. Okay, and it's in Aries. So that's the moon's in Aries. So that's why it's the full moon in Aries here. Okay. What does this mean exactly? What is this all about? Now I like to say things in more general terms. Full moons are all about stepping into things, bringing things to completion, or bringing things to fulfillment, especially because it is halfway, the halfway point of the lunar month or of the lunar cycle. So it's a lot about starting to finish up some of those things that maybe we started at the new moon. Okay? In addition to that, the full moon is when the moon is the brightest in the sky. And because it's very bright in the sky, I believe that full moons can also bring some sort of clarity or insight or illumination or help us to see something more clearly that maybe we were not seeing before. In addition to that, a full moon is a function of an opposition. Oppositions usually indicate choices and decisions needing to be made in order to proceed in a better way as well. So those are things that could be coming up. We're trying to finish something, step into something, do something more fully, okay, and trying to get clarity and insight on what that is so that we can make better decisions about how to do that. Okay, now what is this thing that we're trying to complete and make decisions about and get clarity on? Well, that's going to be Aries, because that's the sign that the full moon is in. Okay, what is Aries all about? Well, one of the things that Aries is about that's really been a big deal this whole year is about action, is about doing things, because it is a Mars ruled sign, which is the planet of action. So that's one thing at this full moon in Aries that we're trying to get clarity on, trying to do more fully and make decisions about, is how we're acting, how we're behaving, what needs to be done in our situation. Not only that, but I also want to note that I believe Aries does indicate a very specific type of action, so to speak, because it is a fire sign. Okay, fire signs are more passionate, right? They're more fiery. They're more instinctual, based more on an instinct, which is in contrast. Sometimes it helps to contrast to logic, to tradition, to something that's practical. So not only are we trying to step into action more fully and get clarity on what this action is and make decisions about it, but the action we need to step into, okay, more fully and make decisions about is action that's passionate and that's instinctual instead of logical or traditional or practical or realistic or all of that. And not only is that the case, but I also want to note as well that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. In addition to being the first sign of the zodiac, it's also a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs and the first sign tend to start things. They start either the zodiac or they start the zodiac going in a different direction, or the cardinal signs start each of the seasons. So there's some kind of thing here about starting something or doing something new or something in a different way, in a different direction than we've done it before as well. That's another theme that we're trying to get clarity on, understand, and make decisions that, again, I think all relates to the action, is going to come back to that. We're trying to get clarity on what action needs to be taken in our situation, which I think is passionate action, more instinctual, not logical, practical, and traditional. Okay? And then we need to make decisions to do more of that action and to behave more in this new way. It's a different way than we've been behaving before. In addition to that, I also want to note as well that Aries also has to do with courage, being a Mars ruled sign, traditionally correlated to warriors as well. So, and starting things takes a lot of courage sometimes too. So that's another thing that is a big focus as well. And I think it's the courage to do these things that we've been talking about, to follow our passions instead of logic, and in a more in a different way than we were before. So that's another thing that is coming up here. Not only are we trying to get clarity on different actions that we need in our life to kind of start new things, which is going to be more passionate action, and to do that in a different way. But we're also getting more of the courage to do those things, to act in this different way, to make some of these things happen that we need as well, which is very important. In addition to that, what I also want to mention as well is that Aries, because it is a fire sign, also has to do with drive and motivation, to kind of do things, to that spark of life, to kind of get you out of bed in the morning, to motivate you to make things happen. So I think there's also that we're trying to step into more fully. We're trying to find that spark for life again, or that inner fighting spirit to come back to our lives, to deal with things in a different and better way, that I think is also coming at this full moon, and that we're also trying to achieve as well. That's important. And I think those for now are the themes that are standing out for me about this full moon in Aries. Maybe just to bring that together before we move on. This full moon in Aries is about us trying to get more clarity about what types of action we need to take to kind of turn our lives in a different direction, which I think is more passionate and instinctual action instead of logical, practical, traditional, or realistic. And not only that, but we're also trying to get more of the courage to do this action, to take the decisions to do the action, and to go more fully with it, and to bring back the spark for life, to bring back our spark and our motivation and our inspiration for life again, so that we can be more fully present in our life and how we behave in it as well, right? Which might require some decisions to be made there at this time, okay? And that's what I'm going to say there, because that's all I'm going to mention in terms of the main theme, the general themes. What I like to do next is to go backwards in time for a few minutes before I talk more specifically about this full moon and the aspects that it's making. The reason why I like to go backwards in time, to give you more of the context, is because there's a full moon in Aries every year. That's not really that significant. But what is different, what is not the same from year to year, are some of the other alignments that have happened around the full moon in Aries, or that have happened before it. So I believe that going back to give you the context is going to help me make this interpretation of this full moon in Aries more detailed, more nuanced, and more different than maybe another full moon in Aries in another year. So I'm going to do that now. If you're not interested in hearing this, because it can get kind of long, especially now we're coming up to the end of the year, or I've already heard it many times and you don't want to listen to it, totally fine. You can go ahead and skip it. I've got the timestamps for you on this video so that you can easily do that. But for now, I'm going to hop into it. I'm going to go back to very briefly an alignment that did happen about 5 years ago, because we're still feeling that one. And that's going to be here in the middle to late degrees of Capricorn in January to April of 2020. Okay. What happened in between January to April of 2020 is we had Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn in the South Node all come conjunct, late to middle degrees of Capricorn. That was a very rare and difficult alignment. It was a very rare alignment because Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct about every 35 years, and not always with Jupiter there or the South Node, which makes it even more rare than that. And difficult because Saturn and Pluto are typically considered malefic planets. Jupiter was in Capricorn, a sign it doesn't like to be in, and therefore doesn't function well in. And the South Node was also there, which can also be a challenge and hold us back as well. What was the rare difficulty that we were experiencing? Well, Saturn can create a sense of stuckness, and Pluto can create a sense of frustration in Capricorn about the direction our lives is going in, and I think had been going in for about the 35 years prior to that, right? Because that's how long it takes this alignment to occur. Not only it was stuckness and frustration about our life and the direction that our life was going in. I think we were feeling stuck and frustrated because either we did not like the past 35 years and the way our life was going at all. We didn't really like much of it. Or if we did like it at one time, we had simply just outgrown it now and are just wanting different things other than what we had, and we're feeling constrained by it. Not only do we realize that in 2020, but I think also too, we realize that we need to start to make big Jupiter, a very big planet change, Pluto, permanent change to end these things from the past, however many years of our life that we did not like, in order to eventually move into a different and better experience, or create a different and better experience of life for ourselves that we might like, which is hard. It's hard to end things that have been a part of your life for a very long time and can trigger a lot of uncomfortable emotions in the process. So that's our starting point. January to April 2020, realized something about my life I don't like the way it's been going for various reasons. I need to make endings now in order to change it, which were hard. That then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention. I'm going to fast forward on our timeline quite a bit, and I'm going to fast forward to this year. And I'm going to fast forward to April of 2025 because we had a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries somewhere around here. Okay, that's important for a few reasons. It's important because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, starts the astrological a new year, and therefore some sort of new theme we're going to spend the next 12 months working through. Not only is that significant because of that, but also too because it was a solar eclipse as well. And eclipses are big deals to bring kind of a significant shift in our life. So we're starting with that. What is that about? New moons are about new beginnings. Solar eclipses superpower those. And it was in the sign of Aries. Aries is about action, being a Mars ruled sign, and I think a very specific type of action, one that's more passionate because Aries is a fire sign instead of logical or practical. Not only was it about that, but Aries too is the first sign of the zodiac and a cardinal sign about starting new things as well. And I think starting these new behaviors, right, to do more of these new behaviors that are more passionate, but also as well about trying to start a whole new chapter in our life that we've been trying to get to really since 2020, to try to really shift in that direction that's going on. And I think it's related to the actions because the actions are key to that. If you want to get into a new experience of life, you have to do things in different ways, because if you're doing what you were doing before that, you're going to recreate the old situations. So this was very important. April of this year, we said, I want to get into a new experience. I'm still not there yet because I've been dealing with some endings. Okay. I want to get there. And to get in the new experience, I have to start acting differently, more passionate, and more instinctual in order to make that happen. Now, why? Why are those types of actions, passion, more important than logic or practicality or things of that sort that's needed to move us forward? Well, the reason why passionate actions are needed instead of practical, logical, responsible actions is because the reason why we did not like our life for the past however many years, 35 years, was because we were being too practical. We were being too responsible. We were being too traditional, and we were ignoring our emotions and our true heart, especially with Pluto being in Capricorn for such a long time. And Capricorn's Earth, practical, responsible, traditional. Okay. So the passionate behaviors are very different from the logical, responsible, practical ones we were doing. That's the key to getting us into a new experience that we'd been trying to get to since 2020, but had struggled and failed still to do so. Okay. So that's where we are this year. And that's the theme, because remember that happened during Aries season that we're going to be working out now till next Aries season for the next 12 months. But now I'm going to move on to the next alignment I want to mention, which I'm now going to go to the new moons, which happened about a month later, May of this year, 2025. We had a new moon in the next sign over of Taurus. New moons, again, are about new beginnings. Fresh starts, new energy. Taurus is fixed earth. Fixed signs are a lot about sustaining something that was previously started. And in this case, started in the sign before it, in the cardinal sign Aries, this new action that it is that we needed to take to get more confident in it. Not only that, but I need to note because Taurus is fixed Earth, it tends to be a little slow of a sign. So we either may have had to slow down around that time to make sure that we were adopting these behaviors in the right way, or it may have just felt slow because when you start to do more of what you're passionate about, instead of all of these things that you should do to be responsible, it feels like you're doing less than what you were doing before. That could be happening here. So that's what we tried to do in May of 2025, sustain the new behaviors, more passionate, that are going to eventually get us into a new, different, and better experience we've been trying to get to since 2020. That then leads me now to the next new moon, a month later, roughly in June of this year, of course, in the next sign over of Gemini of 2025. Okay, what is that about? New moons are about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts. Gemini is a mutable sign. It's about being more flexible and more adaptable, adapting to something, maybe being a little more malleable with it, a little more playful, a little more light with it. It's also about our mindset and adjusting more of our mind to it as well. So that's what happened in June of this year. We got some new behaviors, more passionate, that are eventually going to get us into a new experience. We started to stay fixed in them and to sustain them and to be confident in them, which was a little slow. And then because we had sustained these new behaviors, we were then trying to be more flexible, more playful, more loose with them, and to get more of our mindset on board with it. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which was a month later, the next sign over, the new moon in Cancer, July of this year, 2025. New moons, again, are new beginnings. Cancer is about our emotions and really about our foundations in life and being more grounded, or grounding something and giving it a more firm foundation. In addition to that, I also want to note that that new moon in Cancer was also conjunct Jupiter, which is currently in Cancer. It's sign of exaltation, which is a beautiful alignment as well. And Jupiter, too, is about our belief systems, believing things as well. And in Cancer, not only was it about grounding something, but also to believing our emotions, Cancer, believing Jupiter, our emotions, Cancer, are worthy of being honored or worthy of being followed. And passion is an emotion that I think was very key. So that's what happened in July of this year. I've got new behaviors, more passionate to get me into a new experience. I've sustained them a little bit, stayed fixed in them. I'm starting to get used to them too, a little more playful. I'm adjusting my mindset. And there we get in July a more firm foundation within ourselves. We start to feel more firm and more strong in this different approach and believe more in this different approach that we're getting, and maybe even understand a little more why these different actions are necessary and needed as well in our life. That then leads me now to the next alignment I'm going to mention, which I'm now going to switch to a full moon, which was 2 weeks after that, somewhere around July of this year, July of 2025. We had a full moon in Capricorn, the opposite sign of Cancer, in a similar spot to where that Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, South Node conjunction was many years prior. What was that about? Full moons are about stepping into things we've been working towards for quite some time. Capricorn is about structuring things, about giving things more form and shape to make it more solid, being an earth sign. It also, too, is a more public sign, being the top of the chart, about things being seen more publicly as well. So what I think happened around July of 2025 is not only had we got new behaviors, more passionate, stayed fixed in them, adapted to them, adjusted our mindset and our beliefs, and felt more grounded in them. But I felt like we also were then trying to take action more publicly out in the world with these new behaviors to change some things in our life for the better, and to give these new behaviors more form, to see them manifest in a more practical way in our lives, which I need to note, I think also started to shift a few things in our life direction, because Capricorn also has to do with that for the better in a new way. That then leads me now to the next alignment, which was that next moon about a month later, the new moon here in Leo in August of this year, 2025. Okay, now I want to note this new moon was a little bit more challenging because it was happening at the same time that Mercury was retrograde in the same sign of Leo. What was that about? New moons are about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts. Leo is about courage. It's about courage. It's about passion, which gets along very well with Aries. It's about being bold. It's about risk-taking, honoring ourselves and going for it. And with Mercury retrograde there, I think that we started to stumble. We started to lack courage, be the cowardly line. We started to lack the courage that we needed, especially with Leo being a fixed sign, to follow through on some of these actions we just started to take at the full moon in Capricorn, on some of these actions in this different way that we just started to take very publicly in our lives. We began to lose the courage and hold back on some of those things and not do them fully, not follow through, which made us kind of stagnate and feel stuck. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which was 2 weeks after that, also somewhere around August of this year, 2025, we had a full moon in the opposite sign of Aquarius. Full moons, again, about stepping into things we've been working towards for a while. Aquarius is a lot about detaching from things, especially to see them more clearly, with it being an air sign, or breaking free, say, from things that are keeping us stuck. And so I think what happened at that full moon in Aquarius is that we started to detach from the lack of courage, right? From the fear. We started to detach from the fear, which creates a lack of courage, and to let that go and to break free from that so that we could have more courage to continue with these different behaviors that it is that we've been trying to get all year that needed to happen. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which was 2 weeks after that, a new moon in the sign of Virgo, somewhere around September of this year, 2025. Okay. What was that all about? New moons are all about new beginnings, new energy, fresh starts. Virgo is a lot about our habits and our daily routines. It's about doing something habitually on a regular basis, not every once in a while, not just on occasion, not just whenever it feels safe or easy, but doing something day in and day out regularly and being more realistic about it all. Or I don't know if realistic's the word, but something more tangibly with it being an earth sign. So I think what happened in September of this year is that we overcame some lack of courage that we felt momentarily about these new behaviors. And because we overcame that lack of courage around these new behaviors, we then started to try to do them again, to do these passionate behaviors again, and to do them in a more regular way, not on occasion, not just once, but in a more regular way, day in and day out. That then leads me to the next alignment I want to mention, which happened 2 weeks after that, also somewhere around September, which was in the opposite sign, September 2025, a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces, right around here. Okay, full moons are all about stepping into something we've been working towards for quite some time. Eclipses superpower that. Pisces is a lot about faith and trust and surrender and going with the flow. And sure, this can be a passive way, but with all this Aries stuff going on, I think this is more active, taking a leap of faith, taking a big leap of faith that needed to happen in our lives in these new behaviors, to follow our passion, to follow our heart, to do the thing that does not make logical sense that happened there. Okay, so that's what we did September of this year. Got new behaviors, adapted to them, believed in them, sustained them, started to act on them, got a little scared, overcame some fear. Now back at it again, taking more of a big leap of faith that we need to, in a more regular basis, to bring more things together. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which was another new moon that we had in the sign of Virgo 2 weeks after that, which was an eclipse. Also somewhere in September as well of this year. Okay? New moons are about new beginnings. Eclipses can superpower that. And it was in Virgo. And I need to note it was near the South Node, which is not always pleasant. So that can make it a little more difficult. Virgo does have to do when difficult with our logical mind, being Mercury ruled in Earth, with being practical and realistic, or with being too concerned about some of the details that might be happening, and being maybe too critical or too hard on ourselves. And I think what happened at that last new moon that we had 2 weeks ago, solar eclipse in Virgo, we then started kind of either to get afraid again of this big leap of faith that we had taken, or if not get afraid again, to hold back on this big leap of faith where we started the leap of faith, but we're still not following through, and we're devolving into more worry, into more doubt, into more insecurity, and over stressing or planning around this leap of faith that we had taken, that was causing us to doubt things that could have been very difficult. Okay? And because that's what's kind of been going on, we now get to this new moon, this full moon, excuse me, for which this video is for, in Aries, of course, here in October of 2025. Full moons are all about stepping into things that we've been trying to get to for quite some time. And Aries is about these new behaviors that we've been talking about, that are more passionate. And it's about the courage to do it and to kind of go all in on it and to start anew and to kind of be excited about these things that are going on. And that I think is really needed. And I think maybe to put it into context, right, of everything else, the goal of this full moon in Aries is to go all in on these new behaviors once and for all, without the doubt, without the fear, without the insecurity, without the stop, start. Maybe I'll do it this day. Maybe I'll do it that way. Oh, I do it and then I get scared. The goal of this full moon in Aries is to stop every bit of hesitation, every bit of doubt and logic holding you back, and to go all in on the passion once and for all and to let it happen. So that we can move forward and start new things in our life and turn our life in a new direction, with it being a cardinal sign that we've really been trying to do since the beginning of 2020. Okay, so that's it. That's what I'm going to say there. Maybe before I move on, I'm just going to repeat that very briefly, because that's my thing. I like to do that. It helps me. So just going to repeat that. What's been going on is that we've been trying to get to a new, different, and better experience of life for quite some time, because we did not like the life that we had been living for many years prior to this point, because either it was hard or we had just outgrown it. And we realized at the beginning of this year that the way to get to this new experience of life is to start to do things very, very differently than the way that we were doing them before. Because if we want a new experience of life, we have to behave in different ways. We also realized that the different way we need to behave to get into a new experience of life is one that's based more on passion and emotion and instinct instead of logic, responsibility, or tradition, because we were acting on logic, responsibility, and tradition before that. And that's what got us into the mess that we wanted to get out of. Not only did we realize that around April, but since then of this year, we've been trying to sustain these new behaviors, get more used to them, adjust our mindset and our beliefs, feel more grounded, and act on them, which we did start to do. But after we started to act on these things, we kind of got scared. We lost some courage. We held back. We then had to resolve some issues with our courage and with our fear. We then resolved that issue and then tried to start again to do things in this different way, in a big, bold way, to make more things change in our lives. And we have taken some leaps of faith, but there's still some worry and doubt that's still creeping in about us following our emotions, that at this full moon in Aries, we're going to have to resolve. We're going to have to resolve any of those issues around doubt, around fear, around insecurity, once and for all, around this new approach, so that we can go all in and stop looking back and stop freaking ourselves out about the whole thing in the process. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, I'm now going to move forward. And what I'm going to do next is to talk more about the specific alignments that this full moon in Aries is making, to give you even a more clear and detailed view of what's happening. And to do that, I'm just going to place on the chart one more time what we're referring to. Okay, here's the moon in Aries making an opposition to that sun, to the sun in the sign of Libra. Okay, the first alignment that I really want to take a look at is going to be the square to Jupiter. The square to Jupiter that both of these, that this full moon is making, which includes both the sun squaring Jupiter in Cancer and the moon also squaring Jupiter in Cancer as well. Okay, now I want to note, this is kind of like a big orb, a wide orb, you could call it. It's about 9 degrees off, but I'm still going to count it as being very important because Jupiter is a big planet. So I'm going to give Jupiter a big orb for what is relevant and what isn't. So I'm going to look at this first. What is this all about? Well, this to me is a good thing. It's a good thing because Jupiter is in Cancer, a sign of exaltation, where it really likes to be and where it functions really, really well. So this to me is an important thing. Not only that, but I personally, some of you are probably going to disagree with me, but I personally like Jupiter even by heart aspect to really help us as well. So I think that this is meant to be a positive thing, especially with Jupiter as well, being the planet of gifts, good luck, and wisdom and understanding. So I'm going to consider this in a more positive way. What is that about? Well, Jupiter is about wisdom. Jupiter is about understanding. Hey, it's in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is about our emotions and what it is that we're feeling. And I need to note passion is an emotion, right? The full moon's in Aries, which is passion. Passion is an emotion. Okay. And I think one of the things that's happening here is that we're starting to get more wisdom and more understanding about just how important it is to honor our emotions, to honor our feelings, which include passion, but I need to know could also include other emotions as well. You know, Cancer can have to do with the sensitive, vulnerable spots of ourselves. To really honor those emotions, to really honor our feelings, see them as valuable and worthy and important. Not only that, but Jupiter as well can be about new things too, or doing things in a new way. And in Cancer, it's about our emotions. So working with our emotions differently, especially if we're honoring them more and valuing them more than I think we have in a very long time. Working with them in different ways or feeling differently about our lives. In addition to that, Jupiter is also in Cancer. Cancer is a lot about our foundations in life. It's about feeling more grounded in, say, a different belief system, since Jupiter is about that, in a different belief system where we're honoring more of our emotions and feeling differently and working with our emotions differently as well. Okay, that can be a very good thing. Not only that, but I also want to note too that Jupiter to me can also really be about like honing in on something because Jupiter correlates to Sagittarius, right? The symbol for Sagittarius is the bow and arrow, or like a centaur with the bow and arrow, and the bow and arrow aims for things. It hones in on something that it's going towards. And so I think that this is also helping us to hone in on more of, sure, our emotions, but also more specifically about what our emotions need, what they need us to act on, what would be the best for us that could be important in giving us more insight, maybe more clarity, you could say, about that as well. In addition to that, Jupiter, I need to note, is also about optimism. A glass half full type of thing can also be about faith as well. And right, because that's what belief is. When you believe something, you don't know if it's true or not. You just have faith that it is. So it's also about that. It's also about us starting to have more and more faith that honoring our emotions is a good thing, and that it's going to help us to feel differently and to see the world differently, and that it's going to work out, and we're going to be fine in the process as we do it, and that we can be more grounded, more emotionally strong, more strong within ourselves. Cancer has a lot to do with our own sense of self within this process that I think is going to be a very, very nice that is needed. And it's going to help us feel more grounded, not only in our emotions, but with it connecting to the full moon in Aries, to acting on our emotions, on our feelings, believing in that, having faith that'll work to bring that together as well. Not only do I want to note that, but I also want to note another thing as well about this Jupiter alignment. Jupiter, was important in June at the new moon in Cancer. When it made a conjunction to that new moon right after it entered it, we started to get new beliefs then that honor our emotions more. Hey, this can be a continuation of that, of what happened around that June time period, or revisit some of that. If not a continuation or revisiting some of that, then this is the next evolution of that. This is us deepening even more our belief systems, to have an even stronger belief system in our emotions and in their value and in how important they are to our situation as we honor those as well. Which I think is meant to be a very, very good thing to make something more solid. Not only that, but I also want to note too about this, Cancer is also a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs start new things, they start seasons, because I do tropical astrology based on the seasons. And Because of that, this is also an indicator as well that not only are we starting to understand and value our emotions more and more and more and how important they are and act on those and have more trust and faith that it's going to work and have more and more clarity about what our emotions need and what exactly we need to do about the situation, especially because full moons bring illumination, clarity about it. But it's also us feeling more strong in this conviction than we have yet this year, even stronger in our conviction around this and in our beliefs of what needs to happen. And starting to feel more like this shift in our belief systems is going to work to get us to some new, different, and better experience of life that I think we've been trying to get to since 2020 in a more enduring way, and to bring a very different identity or feeling about ourselves and our life that is sorely needed as well. Okay, so that's, I think the first thing I want to say, the first, especially aspect I want to talk about, that's the most important. Okay, we're trying to do more things in a different way of life that's based more on passion instead of logic or responsibility or practicality, and to get more of the courage to go more fully in on that. That's the full moon in Aries. And we are getting there. And we are getting there, and we are getting more of that courage. We are getting more of that conviction and that belief in these different behaviors that honor our emotions, that honor our passion. And we're understanding more and more and more deeply just how important that is, and are becoming more hopeful, more optimistic about these actions, about our life, about these behaviors, helping us to change our lives for the better, to get to something new and different that it is that we need. And we're getting more clarity on what the things our emotions need that we can act on, that I think is also very, very good, helping us to feel a bit stronger within what we're doing and what's happening. Okay. That then leads me to the next alignment that I want to mention. And the next one I'm going to mention is going to be somewhere else, not related to the full moon, but happening around it. And that's going to be Mercury, which recently entered Scorpio, excuse me, right before this full moon in Aries, and is making a square over to Pluto in Aquarius. Now, this obviously is a challenging alignment because it's a square. A square is a hard aspect. And because we've got Pluto here as well, and Pluto Pluto to me is usually a challenge, especially by hard aspect. And Pluto to me is a challenge because it's an outer planet, and outer planets are sometimes hard for us here on Earth to understand. So much so we don't even know, is Pluto a planet or not? Right? There's some issue there. So they can be a little bit more difficult. Also, too, Mercury is at the very beginning degrees of a sign, and the very beginning degrees of a sign can be less refined, and a little youthful or young or immature, so to speak, as well. So this can be a little bit difficult. What is the thing that's difficult? Well, Mercury is here. Mercury is about our mindset, about our thoughts. Okay. And when I say mindset and thoughts, I want to contrast it with Jupiter, right? Because that's what we were just talking about. Jupiter is about our beliefs. Our beliefs are kind of like big ideas, big things that are out there. Mercury is about taking these big ideas and making them more concrete, making them more finite, and integrating them more into our conscious mind, right? Jupiter might go more subconscious. Mercury is more our little mind, our conscious mind, okay? And that's because Jupiter is a very big planet, and Mercury is a very small planet. So this is us trying to take these big beliefs that we just have, that we were just talking about honoring our emotions and about how much acting on our emotions is good and necessary. And this clarity now about what our emotions need, it's about us trying to become even more clear on that, even more clear. It's about that, that trying to kind of hit our mindset. It's about us trying to be more conscious, bring that more into consciousness to get more crystal clear. There's something about we need more clarity because we understand something intuitively, we understand something subconsciously, but in our conscious mind, we're trying to get more clear on that and what that is. In addition to that, Mercury, I need to note, also has to do with our daily routines and our habits, since Mercury also correlates to the sign of Virgo, where we just had an eclipse, okay, as well. So not only is this Mercury trying to get us to take these big beliefs that we have now about how important acting on our emotions is to changing our lives and how hopeful we are, it's us trying to get this big belief and this big intuitive understanding we have about what our emotions need, and to get it more clear, to get it more finite, to get it more conscious, more top of mind. And not only that, but to do these new beliefs even more regularly, more habitually on the day-to-day. Not only that, but Mercury is in Scorpio. Scorpio is about permanent change and is about with permanent transformation, to end something and to begin something else. And again, in this case with Mercury, our mindset and our habits. Okay. And I think that I'm going to leave that part is good in that sense. That's good. We're trying to change our mind, to our little mind, to match our big beliefs that we're getting, and to make things more clear, and to do these new beliefs more regularly on a daily basis, especially because that's what we were trying to do at these eclipses that have been going on. We're trying to do it, and not just do it a little, permanently. We're trying to make that permanent change towards these new behaviors and these new directions in a more regular and habitual way, because we've been stumbling a little with that. Okay. But even though that's what we're trying to do, and I think that's a healthy impulse, and I think that's a good impulse, this is at the 0 degrees. The very beginning degrees, which again are more youthful, are more immature, are not as refined, are not as wise as the older degrees. So even though that's what we want, and that's what we're trying to do, trying to get the mindset more permanently in this different direction, and our habits more permanently in this different direction, and to transform, to be the phoenix rising, right, to fully embody this different experience, we're still not doing it to a mature level. Do you see? We still haven't fully gotten the best mindset, the most mature mindset, or the most wise mindset that we need. We still haven't fully developed the best habits and routine that we need. We're just at the beginning. We're just crawling. We're crawling, instead of flying. When it comes to these new things that's going on, that can make us feel a little uneasy when you get these early degrees. Not only that, but again, it's making that square to Pluto in Aquarius. Okay. This is also difficult. Pluto can bring too much of our desire or attention to something that could be a little overwhelming, a bit unbalanced, that could occur. Okay. It's in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is a lot about detaching from things that are going on. And in this case, could be detaching, say, from the actions that we need to take, these actions we need to take that are more passionate, right? And not taking them at all. That could be going on, especially because we're still trying to figure out the mindset and the routine. Okay, could have us just spacing out, right? That's the Aquarius. I'm tired of dealing with it. It's been so hard. It's been so frustrating to get these new behaviors. Like, I just don't want to deal anymore. So it could have us detaching from it because we're just tired of all of this stuff and doing too much in that direction. Not only could it bring that, but another way, I'll give you a few different ways this could play out. Aquarius can also have to do with our mindset as well, being an air sign. So this could also too bring up a very restless mind as well, where we're feeling anxious. That's another word with Aquarius, because Aquarius has to do with technology, which is wired, can make us feel very anxious and nervous. So it can create that either. Right? I'm starting to get these new behaviors. I'm starting to believe them. I'm starting to think about them in more conscious ways and find it and embody them more regularly. But it's hard. It's overwhelming. I don't want to do it. I'd rather zone out. And it's making me anxious and nervous anyways. And, about the whole thing. Not only that, but I also want to note as well that Pluto is also a planet of fear. It's also a planet of, can bring up some doubt or insecurity as well, especially if there's anxiety, especially if the mind is going crazy. So that can also bring up some fear and doubt, especially the Scorpio, right? Scorpio can indicate that as well. Some fear, some doubt, some insecurity about what has been about these new behaviors that we're trying to adopt, and about honoring our emotions more fully. Not only that, but it can make us fall more back into the logic, because Aquarius is an air sign, and the air signs really don't really understand emotions. So this can also too bring a tendency to want to fall out of, if not do nothing, because we're just tired of it and it's restless and anxious and making us nervous and we're afraid, then to fall back into doing things that are not passionate, that are not based on our emotions, but that are more logical. And that are more, traditional or whatever it is that could be going on, that could be hard. In addition to that, I also need to note too that Aquarius is about other people. It's a sign that has to do with friends and social networks, which in some ways can be relational. A lot of the air signs to me are more relational than some of the other signs, and can bring that. So this can also bring a tendency as well where we're listening too much to other people, which I think is definitely a thing coming up at this full moon in particular, with the sun in Libra, where we're listening too much to other people and what they're saying about our lives and what they're saying about what we should be doing and in what way we should be doing things, that can be going on as well, taking us away from our inner voice of our emotions and confusing, maybe even with Mercury, when negative can go confusing the message that our subconscious and our intuition and our higher mind knows so clearly or knows so well, that can be a bit hard. Okay, so I think that, and is there something else I want to add here? Okay, another thought, right? Because this is not new. This is not the first time that I've said, we've got fear and doubt and insecurity about these new passionate behaviors that are more in tune with our emotions and that we are stuck or zoning out or confused. This is not the first time I've said that. This has happened many times. What makes this different, though, okay, is that it's all of that insecurity and fear from the past few months piling up, right, and coming back. So these shouldn't be new ones. They shouldn't necessarily be new ones. I think it's a lot of the fear that we've already been feeling piling up at this time, especially too with the sun now in Libra, right? Libra starts the last half of the zodiac, right? It starts fall. So when we're in Libra season, we're not necessarily plowing new ground. We're dealing with the stuff we've been trying to do since Aries season for the past 6 months, and on working through those, that's happening. Okay. So this isn't new, shouldn't be new fears, insecurities. It's like, they're the old ones. It's like your good old friend doubt, your good old friend worry, your good old friend insecurity, your good old friend talking you out of things, right? It's like all of that here coming back, that can be hard, that I need to note as well, we're trying to kick. Do you see with the Mercury in Scorpio, change and transformation? We're trying to change. And that's also what makes it different. Another thing from the other horoscopes I've done the past few months as well, not only that this is just all of that same stuff coming back at once, but it's also us with Mercury. Right? Mercury is about the logical mind, the conscious mind, trying to become conscious of that. This is also about us becoming consciously aware. This is my issue when it comes to following my emotions. This is what makes me afraid. This is what trips me up. To be consciously aware of it so that it doesn't subconsciously get the best of you, so that it doesn't run you ragged without you knowing it. It's us trying to also consciously become aware of the pitfalls that have been stopping us from doing this as well, and to break through those, to break the pattern, break the cycle. To me, that's also what Scorpio is about, and Pluto. We got to break the chain of the way that things have been as well. So that's also what makes it different, in the sense it's not little piecemeal, one little fear, it's all of the fears and anxieties from the past few months when it comes to this new approach that we've been talking about. And we have more resolve this time to be conscious of them, to know what they are, and to not let them stop us in the same way that they once did. And we're trying to break through it. Not only that, but I also want to note as well, before I repeat this section, that Mercury is also making some other alignments as well, which is 2 quincunxes that it's making. Mercury in Scorpio is making a quincunx over to Neptune in Aries. At the same time, it's making a quincunx to Uranus in Gemini. Now, again, I don't normally mention quincunxes except when there's two of them to one planet, making it a yod. And we've had a lot of those lately that we've been talking about. And a yod is when you've got one planet, in this case Mercury, making a two quincunx. Quincunx is to two separate planets. And those two separate planets, in this case Neptune and Uranus, are sextiling one another. So it makes like a big arrow here. Okay, what is that about? Well, when you see a yod, what it means to me is that whatever's at the point of the triangle is super important. There's something there that needs to fully be resolved. And in this case, it's the Mercury, which it's pointing to, which is about breaking through these fears and insecurities, the doubt, maybe some of the stuck energy around this new approach to life, that we need to honor our emotions. It's about breaking through on those and becoming more conscious of what our pitfalls are. And not only breaking through those and becoming more conscious of what our pitfalls are, but also becoming more clear and strong in our emotions and what those need as well. It's about us really trying to do that. Not only is it about that, but again, this is not easy. The quincunxes are not an easy alignment because it's like kind of a weird angle to do things. So it's not easy. This can also create more tension when it comes to those things that we've just talked about. More anxiety and nervousness with Uranus there in Gemini, because Uranus correlates to Aquarius where Pluto is. And here's the confusion, more confusion. Neptune can bring confusion. When by hard aspect, confusion, and in Aries, right? Yeah, that's where it is. Confusion about what we need to do here to move our lives forward. And when I say confusion, I need to be clear. This is kind of like a weird thing. We're not confused spiritually. We're not confused emotionally. We're not confused intuitively. We're not confused subconsciously. We're just confused consciously. We're confused consciously. We're confused in the little mind, the little finite self on how to do things in a practical way. That's where the confusion is. Okay. That needs to go on. So maybe to bring it together, let me maybe repeat all of that before I add more onto it. What is happening at this full moon in Aries is that we're trying to get more courage, more drive, right? More strength to act in a new way in our lives that's more passionate and honors more of our emotions instead of our intuition, instead of logic, tradition, realism, pragmatism, all of that. That's what we're trying to do. And there is a significant part of us, especially in the subconscious big belief system, that gets it, that we need to honor our emotions, that understands it, that believes it, that wants it, that trusts it, that's going to have faith in it, and that really wants to more permanently change, to go in this different direction and to do things in this different way, not just a little bit, not just when it's easy, all the way, all the time, more fully and more completely. But even though we are getting it, a big part of ourselves is getting it, especially the subconscious, especially the intuition, especially in our big beliefs, when it comes to our small, finite, conscious mind. And when it comes to taking these big things and doing them in a more regular basis, we're tripping ourselves up. We're tripping ourselves up a little, and we're falling back into the old pitfalls, all the old pitfalls of the past few months coming back now and piling up of being too logical, of overthinking the situation, of getting too anxious and nervous, about following our emotions, about these different things, of not wanting to deal with it, of wanting to tap out because it's too much, and of lacking courage, and of listening too much to other people and what they might think that's not in our best interest, that can make us, spiral, feel confused, and feel confused really about something that our heart knows. Do you understand? Your heart knows what needs to happen. Your soul knows what needs to happen. Your emotions know what needs to happen. Your spirit knows what needs to happen. It's your logical mind that's talking you out of things that you already know to be true within yourself in a very, very big way that can create an internal struggle, and make us feel anxious, stuck, confused, challenged. Okay. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which is going to be with Venus. Okay, Venus at the time of this full moon in Aries is going to be near, right here, as you see it, near conjunct the South Node in the sign of Virgo. Now, this is also not a great thing as well. This is not a great thing either, because the South Node tends to be things that are going to hold us back and keep us stuck. if we continue to do them, and that we need to let go of. And it's hard to let go of things. Not only that, but Venus is in Virgo, a sign it does not like to be in, and therefore does not function that well in either. So this to me can also be a bit of a challenge. What is that? Well, again, the South Node is things we're stuck in, and it's the Virgo stuff. Virgo is a lot about overthinking, again, with it being a Mercury ruled sign. It's also about being too logical and practical, with it being an earth sign and realistic about things. It can also be about us overworking or doing too much, making things harder than they need to be, because it is a sign about our job and work. It can also be too about worry. Sometimes Virgo can be that way as well. It can also be about us being too detail oriented, focusing still too much on the details about our situation and what's happening and what we're doing and what's going on. Can also be about being too critical and us being too hard on ourselves as well and our situation. And how do I want to say it? Like not seeing the forest for the trees. There's this situation, right? Too focused on the details that you're not seeing the bigger picture of what's actually going on. Right. And Venus is there. Venus is, when positive is about confidence or sense of self, but can bring a sense of insecurity. Not only that, it can bring worry about money, because Venus has a lot to do with money. So there can be a lot of worry about money still. Maybe our money still hasn't changed to support some of these new behaviors that we want to do, that maybe we're taking a leap of faith around, that can also be holding us back. So our worries about money can also be holding us back from going in on these new, more passionate behaviors. In addition to that, Venus is also about relationships. I think especially relationships with the sun in Libra. This can also indicate relationships being a problem as well. With Venus being in Virgo, a sign it doesn't like to be in on the South Node, and relationships holding us back. Especially people who haven't been learning their lessons or doing their growth and realizing what this whole year has been about. It can bring other people being too hard on you, other people being too critical on you in your life, people that you're in relationships with, other people saying to you, why are you honoring your emotions? You shouldn't honor your emotions. You should do things in this logical way. You should do things in this responsible way, and making you feel bad for that or stressing you out. Well, what if this happens? Well, why didn't you think of that? Well, what about this? It can bring other people in your life also being part of the problem in your ear, especially right with the Aquarius, taking you away from the things that your heart, your soul, your spirit, your emotions need to be doing at this time, and contribute to even more frustration. Yeah. And just more of a little bit of a spiral that could be happening. Okay. That can be hard. So to bring that together, before I go in a different direction, what is happening at this full moon in Aries is that we're trying to get more courage, really, to do things in a different way in our life that's based more on our passions and our emotions, instead of logic and responsibility and pragmatism, which is ultimately going to turn our lives in a new, different, and better direction. Not only is it about that, but it's also too about us emotionally, spiritually, and in our heart, maybe that's a better word, and in our heart and our subconsciously understanding exactly what needs to be done to honor our emotions, how it needs to be done, and what it is, and becoming more hopeful and more faithful and more optimistic about the whole thing, and stronger and more grounded in it. But even though we're trying to get more courage to act in this different way, and a huge part of our soul and our heart and our emotions gets it, exactly what needs to be done, with the hope, the courage, the optimism, and the faith, there's another part of ourselves, the more logical part of ourselves, the more conscious, small, finite mind part of ourselves, that is struggling to accept what our heart knows to be true, to fully accept what our heart knows to be true, to fully go in on what our emotions know to be true, what our instincts know to be true, what our subconscious knows to be true. And that is falling back into the same pitfalls we've been dealing with this whole freaking year about this, fear and anxiety, lack of courage around following our emotions because it doesn't make logical sense about the situation, worrying too much about other people and what they say or what they're thinking, which is making us feel anxious and nervous and confused and stuck, and fall back into old habits and patterns, or not move forward in the way that we need, and can create difficulty with money and relationships. frustrations with relationships. Maybe there's some arguments there. Maybe there. I should say that. I think I need to go as far as say maybe there could be some arguments, especially with like the Scorpio stuff and Mars and Scorpio, arguments with relationships about some of this stuff that could also take you further away from your inner truth and make things more difficult. Okay. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention. And that's going to be back to the full moon again and the alignment that that's making. And the full moon is going to be, I'm going to consider it. I'm going to consider it also in somewhat of a conjunction here with Chiron in the sign of Aries. Now, again, I know this is even further away than the square to Jupiter. Right? This is 11 degrees away, a very wide orb to consider it a conjunction, but I'm going to consider it anyways, a conjunction. I'm going to consider it anyways because Jupiter is also squaring Chiron at the same time. Okay. Not only, right? And Jupiter squaring Chiron is going to bring it more into this alignment because Jupiter has a very big orb. It's aspecting the full moon. It's also squaring Chiron. It's going to bring all of these things together because I see everything in the chart is connected. So I'm going to consider this also related. I'm going to consider Chiron conjunct the full moon in Aries. Hey, what is this? Now, there are some challenging things about this because it is Chiron, and Chiron does have to do with fears, triggers, and insecurities. But I want to see this actually more positive this time. The reason why I want to see this more positive is, well, for one, we've already talked a lot about the fears, insecurities, and triggers in this video. We've talked a lot about them over the course of the past few months. I don't think I really need to go into more detail about what those are, especially if you've been watching those videos. But also because I think Chiron is going to start to function in a different and better way now. And I think Chiron's going to start to function in a different and better way now because full moons, right, bring illumination to something. They bring illumination to something to see something more clearly. Not only do full moons do that, but full moons can bring decisions and bring breakthroughs, especially with like the Mercury now in Scorpio trying to change it. It can bring breakthroughs. And we've got Jupiter, the planet of gifts and good luck and wisdom and understanding, also squaring this as well, I think helping it out too. So I think that it's trying to go in a more positive way. Okay, what is that more positive way? Well, again, Aries is courageous. Aries is very courageous, and Chiron can be about those fears, insecurities, and triggers that we were just talking about. And this is us getting more of the courage to overcome the fear, to overcome the triggers, to move past them. Not only that, what else can it bring? Chiron, when positive, can bring healing fear, healing triggers, healing anxiety, working through those things in a very positive way so that we can move on to get to where we need to go. Can bring a lot of healing and working through that I think is possible. Is highly possible at this full moon in Aries, right? Because and it's the real message. It's the real message of the full moon in Aries, right? The real message of the full moon in Aries is not, oh, things are hard again and we've got more frustrations, which I'm sure some of people who are going to focus on who watch this video. That's not the real message. We've been having fears and insecurities for how many new and full moons that we've talked about this year. The real message of this full moon is that we're feeling the fear, we're feeling the frustration, we're feeling every difficult emotion about these new behaviors that we felt for the past few months. And we're going to overcome them. We're going to overcome them this time. We're going to break through them this time. We're not going to let them stop us anymore this time. And we're going to go find the courage to go all in on these different behaviors and what we need to do and heal the fear, heal the insecurity so that we can move forward. And it's about us standing up. You know, Aries is a lot about being assertive and standing up for ourselves and standing up for this new thing and allowing ourselves to go more in this direction and being the conqueror, you know, with Aries being a symbol of the warrior, it's the warrior becoming the conqueror, to conquer all of these things that have happened that we've been made us scared so that we can move past them. Okay. And maybe to tie in a few other things really quickly as well, with the Mercury in Scorpio being the point of the yod, right? A point of the yod means there's a lot of focus there. That can be really helpful. Mercury, when positive in Scorpio, is about becoming conscious. Mercury, the conscious mind of our fears, Scorpio. And it's also too about changing Scorpio, our mindset, and changing Mercury, our daily habits and routines to be more of this different way and be more in supportive of that. And also with Jupiter connecting to some of this stuff and also being the point of a T-square, whoops, I still got the eraser, with Jupiter being the point of a T-square with the full moon, it's also about us trusting more in our heart and our soul and the things we cannot see, the big subconscious ideas, the feelings, trusting more in that and honing more in on that with the bow and arrow and letting us go more and more in that direction, okay? So that to me is what is meant to happen. We're conquering the fear and anxiety and trusting in the unknown and the emotions and in our feelings and in this new behavior more than we ever have before, and letting it happen and doing it and emerging as the victor and the conqueror over everything that's been holding us back so far this year and going in on what we need to go in on, which is very good. Okay, now, what else do I want to note about this? I want to note that I think that this, well, hold on. Is there something else? Sure. Maybe there's another thing I want to say. Aries 2 is not a relationship sign, because I do think there's a little bit of a weird relationship thing going on here at this full moon in Aries. Aries is not a relationship sign. It's about ourselves. So this full moon is also about us trusting more in our own self and what we believe and feel instead of what other people are telling, and not listening to other people or getting them out of our lives. The South Node can indicate ending relationships that are no longer good for us, right? Doing that. It can also be us to, maybe another thought, ending money situations that are no good for us and finally creating new ones. So it's going to be the conqueror, the victor, helping us to end and get rid of a lot of things that have been holding us back, okay? And helping us to move forward. Aries is about the new beginnings, new starts, helping us to not only dive in to these different behaviors and be courageous and be courageous and the conqueror as we do it, but to end anything standing in our way and to move into the new and better experience that we've been trying to get to for quite some time. That's going to help us to finally do it. Okay. Not only that, but I also want to note as well that Aries is also a lot about that fighting spirit. It's a lot about passion. It's a lot about that spark and zest for life. So not only is this about us healing a lot of the fears and insecurities that have been holding us back from doing things in a different way and honoring more of our emotions and finally fixing relationships and money and letting go of relationship and money situations that have been keeping us stuck and have been in the way of that so that we can start a new, different, and better experience. But it's also been us as well finding more of that that passion and zest for life, right? Because Aries is about the motivation and the fire. It's about us finding more of that passion and zest for life coming back, which I don't think we felt in a very long time. I think for a very long time, our life has felt dull. Has felt boring, or felt like a muted version of like who we could be and what we could experience. And I think that this full moon is changing that. It's bringing more life, more passion, more zest. It's making life come back in full color, or making you come back stronger, in your life than you ever thought was possible, the past few years, and giving you more of that warrior drive to start again as well and to feel more excited and passionate about your life. In addition to that, Aries as well is a fast sign, being a Mars ruled sign. Mars likes to fast cars, fast lifestyle. So not only that, but this is also going to help to pick up the pace of things in your life after this point, to make them faster, especially faster to make changes to finally end these things that have been keeping you stuck and do the things that are going to get you moving. It's going to pick up the pace now and help you be faster to do it, which I think is going to take from now to about March of next year once Saturn re-enters Aries. So now the speed of things is going to start to ramp up. Now that you've got the passion and the zest for life and you're healing and you've got the courage to really do some of these things that you need to do in order to get your life finally in this different direction once and for all since 2020. Not only that, but I think another thing that I want to note is that I do think that this is going to happen naturally, more instinctually, that many people are going to do it in this way. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to happen at first. There's a struggle at first. There's an internal struggle. But I think we're naturally going to overcome the struggle. We're naturally going to be done with it and ready to move on, and to heal it and to work through it and to break through it so that we can move forward. I do think that it's going to happen naturally for a lot of people, even if it takes a minute to get there. But if it does not happen naturally for you, then what is the advice if it doesn't happen naturally? Well, I think some of it is going to be with that Aries. You just have to have the courage, and you have to have that warrior spirit. Some of it, and go all in on what your emotions are saying and passion, even if it does not make logical sense or isn't practical. And not only is a big part of the advice, like, you just have to have courage. Sometimes it's what it is. You just have to close your eyes and do it, If it's not that, maybe some other advice too. Aries is about passion. It's to focus more on the excitement of what you're doing instead of the fear or the worry. So there's a need to also focus on some of that. And not only can that be some of the advice, but again, with the Jupiter being the T-square, point of a T-square with the full moon, Jupiter is a lot about believing. You got to adjust your beliefs to believe more in your emotions over logic, because your beliefs affect your actions. It's also about having more hope and faith that it's going to work, and trusting and surrendering to the situation and what needs to happen. And it's also Mercury and Scorpio changing your mindset and rooting out any of these subconscious fears or insecurities that you have as well. So that's the advice there. But that's advice I've been giving you, right? That's advice I've been giving you for the past few months. And it's the same advice I've been giving you for the past few months back again, because you have to use the advice. You have to use the advice to break through it. So there could also be that can help some of you as well. But I think for the most of you, this is going to be more natural. You're naturally and instinctually just going to be like, I'm done with all this BS from the past few months. I'm doing it. More of a leap, more of a risk, more trusting our emotions, a leap of faith, all of that. That's going to happen, which is going to pick up the pace, right, and change our lives. So that's what I'm going to say. I think that's all I'm going to say there. Because that's all I'm going to say in terms of the aspects, I'm just going to repeat that one more time before we move on to a different section. So let me do that now. What I think is going on at this full moon in Aries is that we are trying to more fully step into a new way of acting that's based more on passion and emotion instead of logic, intuition, responsibility, and tradition. Because these new behaviors are what's going to get us into a new, different, and better experience of life, and to get more of the courage for that to happen. Not only are we trying to do that, but there is a big part of us, especially a subconscious part of us, and especially a part of us in our emotions, our heart, and our soul that gets it, that knows it, that we need to follow our emotions and heart, that believes it, that has a strong conviction about it, that understands what needs to happen, and that's clear about what actions we need to take and in what ways, and is more trusting and has faith that it's going to work. But even though there's a part of us that gets what needs to happen, especially our heart, our soul, our intuition, our subconscious, there's another part of us, our logical, finite, conscious mind that's fighting what our heart knows to be true. That's fighting what our heart knows to be true, and is falling back into all of the same issues we've had with this new approach for the past few months. The overthinking, the worry and anxiety, the doubt, the being too logical, the caring too much about what other people think or what they're saying, the anxiety, the nervousness, and making us feel stuck and confused and frustrated with money, maybe at ourselves, maybe with relationships, and angry. That can be very, very hard, okay? A battle, duking it out between these two different parts of ourselves. But even though that's hard, we are going to emerge as we're going to be the warrior, and we're going to emerge as the victor, and we're going to conquer this logical part of our mind keeping us stuck, and heal the fear, the doubt, the insecurity, the overthinking. We're going to conquer that. We're going to heal that. We're going to let that go. Anything that's been holding us back, including relationships and money issues, we're finally going to conquer that and heal that. And not only are we finally going to conquer that and heal that, but we're going to end the things that are keeping us stuck, believe wholeheartedly and have faith wholeheartedly in our emotions and our passions, and go all in on it, which is going to be the thing that's going to bring new, different, and better experiences of our life finally from now until next March, and increase the pace the speed to make that happen over the course of the next few months, and is going to bring more of our spark and our zest and our mojo and our motivation and our passion back to life, where we're going to start to feel more vital, more alive, more real, where life's more in color and like where we're an active participant in it instead of dull or sad or stuck. And I think that's going to happen naturally on its own, although it might not happen at first. It might take a minute to work through some of this stuff. And that's going to be going on, which is very good. But if it does not happen naturally, then the advice is to consciously choose to be courageous, to trust your emotions more than your logical mind, to change your mind, right? Change your mindset, and to let go of anything that's been holding you back or keeping you stuck, relationships, money, or otherwise at this time. Okay, and that's it. Okay, because that's it. Now what I like to do is say a few other things about the energy in a little bit of a different way that's more conversational, maybe more intuitive, that's not as tied so much to the aspects themselves, but just other random thoughts that I might have. So I'm going to do that now. Give me a minute to kind of figure out what I want to say. I think I did okay with that interpretation. What thing stands out to me the most? This is a breakthrough moment. If there's something that you take away from this, there's one thing that you take away from this video. The takeaway is not, oh, great, more problems. Oh, great, more stuck. Oh, great, more of the same old issues. No, the takeaway from this video is that we're breaking through it. We're breaking through the stuck energy. We're breaking through the fear. We're breaking through the insecurity, and we're around this new behaviors, and we're going all in on it. So I see this as actually a very helpful full moon, even if it doesn't feel like it at first, a very helpful full moon. Not only that, but I think it's a helpful full moon that's going to change the course of your life, the trajectory of your life in a very significant way, especially with Aries being a cardinal sign. Okay. So I see this as being a very hopeful thing. I hope that you all, that's the message you take away. Not only do I want to say that, okay, what else do I want to note? Okay, I also want to note too, and maybe I want to make a distinction on what is happening. What is the struggle here? Because maybe this part was a little unclear earlier in what I said. There is an inner battle that's going on, which could feel like relationships are involved, right? There is a relationship component, okay? We could feel like relationships are stopping us from doing what we want to do and taking the leap of faith. But really, all relationship problems are personal problems. They come back to ourselves, because how we relate to ourselves is how we deal with other people, right? And if other people are talking you out of things, then there must be a part of you that believes what they're saying, right? Because if you didn't believe what you're saying, you wouldn't care what they said. So it all comes back to ourselves. I think there's a big, what is the thing? Maybe there is a challenge, even though we're going to be victorious. Okay. And the challenge that is going on at this full moon is an inner challenge, first and foremost, within ourselves. And it's two parts of ourselves kind of fighting with each other. Okay. So that's the next thing I want to note. There's two parts of ourselves fighting with each other, even though the right part is going to be victorious. What are those two parts of ourselves that are fighting? The Jupiter part and the Mercury part. Okay. Jupiter and Mercury are opposites. They're opposites because Jupiter correlates to Sagittarius and Mercury correlates to Gemini, and Sagittarius and Gemini are opposite signs. Okay? They're also opposite as well because Jupiter is a big planet and Mercury is a very small one. Okay, these are opposites. These are the two parts of ourselves that are fighting. On one side of the fight, you've got Jupiter. Jupiter is wisdom, understanding, good luck. Jupiter also is our more subconscious mind, or what is it? Our left brain? What's the part of our brain that's more creative? There's like the left brain and the right brain. There's like a creative brain and analytical brain. Jupiter's the creative brain. It's the creative brain. It's the part of ourselves that can grasp big concepts really easily, philosophies, things of that sort. And because Jupiter is more of our creative brain, is more big ideas, is more subconscious, I'm also going to associate it more to our emotions, right? Especially because it's in Cancer. It's in Cancer. Our emotions, our heart, our soul, our intuition. It's the part of ourselves you can't logically explain, right? Do you know how sometimes when you know how sometimes you just know things and you don't know how you know it? but you just know it. Like that's a Jupiter thing when that happens. You can't explain how some thought came into your head or whatever, or what it means, but you just get it. Or how sometimes when you're learning a really complex topic in some kind of subject, who knows, maybe it's like a health subject or whatever, and you're at a point when you're learning this complex topic and you're like, I don't understand quite the mechanics, the details of it, but I get what you're saying, right? I get the idea of what you're saying, right? These are Jupiter things. And so I think there's one part of ourselves that is all in with the Jupiter, which is the emotional part, the intuitive part, the conceptual part of our brain, the big part of ourselves that gets it. And that gets what? That gets that we need to honor our emotions and do more things based on our emotions, which is passion, that honor our emotions, and to have more trust and faith that it's going to work out. There is a part of ourselves that understands it, okay? Especially emotionally, heart, spiritually, and intuitively. Then there's the other part of ourselves, Mercury. Mercury is the more finite part. It's the more conscious part. It's the part that's more logical. It's the part that needs details, reasons, explanations for why things are going to happen and in what way they're going to happen. That's going on. That's more analytical, the more analytical part of our brain. Okay. And that part is the exact opposite of the Jupiter part that we talked about. That part is skeptical. That part is skeptical that honoring our emotions is going to get us to where we need to go. That part is skeptical that having faith that things are going to work out is going to work because it doesn't think it's practical. It doesn't think it makes logical sense. Okay. That part is trying to logically justify, right? And so that part is either trying to ignore what our heart and soul knows to be true, or trying to justify it, trying to find ways to justify and to make practical this other part of ourselves that isn't practical, that's going on, that's fighting with one another. Okay. So I think that's what I want to say. There's a war going on, which may appear to be outside of us with relationships and money, but is really inside of us because everything outside, external to us, is an internal creation by how we relate to ourselves. Okay. And the war that's going on inside is that a big part of ourselves, our emotional self, our heart, our spirit, our soul, our intuition, our creative mind, our big conceptual mind knows that we need to honor our emotions and have faith and go more in and do more of that. Okay. And that part is being fought by the other part of our lives and the other part of ourself that is doubting what our heart is telling us, doubting that our emotions are going to work, doubting that we should have faith on that, trying to overly justify it or be too detailed about it, or trying too hard to make logical sense of it. That is creating the conflict. Okay. And spoiler alert, the right side's going to win, Jupiter. Spoiler alert, we're going to overcome it, but it's a little bit of a difficult thing that's happening, okay? So keep that in mind. This is an inner battle between our head and our heart. Maybe that's the simplest way to put it. An inner battle between our head and our heart. Our heart knows what needs to be done, but our head is doubting it. Our head is doubting it, and our head doesn't want to believe it. Our head is still afraid of it. And is trying to justify our way out of it, and is trying to let other people talk us out of it, is trying to let money talk us out of it. That's going on. That's difficult. Okay. And the answer, right, which I think we're going to come to naturally, I think a lot of you are going to come to naturally, is that we need to stop listening to our head and start listening to our heart. Okay, stop listening to the head, start listening to the heart. That's the answer. We need to stop trying to logically justify things or find reasons for things and listen more to our heart, and to go more in that direction and change and transform more towards that and allow that to happen. Okay. Which is needed. And maybe another thought that I want to say there, right? If you're trying, they're opposite sides and it's hard for them to be reconciled, right? It's like one has to win over the other. It's hard for them to be reconciled because sometimes following your heart doesn't logically make sense. Do you understand this? Sometimes things that your heart knows to be true don't logically make sense, but are still true nonetheless, right? And if you're trying to justify something that doesn't make logical sense, you're just going to have problems. So I think there's something there that I want to, that also needs to be said. Right? It's very hard to do both. And I don't think this is a both thing. I think this is a going all in on something because Jupiter is here. You need to go all in on the heart. Go all in on the heart and either disregard the logic or change the way you logically make sense of things to value what the heart is saying at this time. And right, and to allow it to happen. Okay. Right. Anything else I want to say? The phrase following your heart, listening to your heart really stands out to me. Right. And maybe to give that more clarity to some of you all, like when, there are some things about the heart that it can't justify. Maybe I need to give some of an example about that. Like when it comes to certain people we like more than others, right? As humans, there are certain people we just like more than others, or that we're attracted to more than others. Why is that? Why is that? Sometimes it doesn't make logical sense, right? We just are. We like what we like. We have preferences. Sometimes we like different colors, but colors that other people don't like. Why do we like certain color? Why do we like certain foods? We just like it. We just like it. It doesn't have to make logical sense why we like some of these things. And that's what's more magical about it. That's what brings the magic. It's like we don't know why we like it, but it brings us joy. And so I think that's where we need to be. We need to go more with that part of ourselves. Why are we doing something? Because we like it, because it brings us joy, because we're passionate about it, because that's what our heart wants. And we need to stop trying to logically justify, well, why do you want this? Well, what if this happens? Well, why do you feel this way? Why is this your favorite color? It's like, well, I don't know why it's my favorite color. You have to go with it. Okay. So I think that's the big thing there. What else do I want to note about that? Okay, another thing I want to note about this as well is this can create a situation with a lot of you where you're like, where you think you're confused about what to do to fix your life, and where you think you don't have clarity when you really do. Okay. So it can also create a situation like that where maybe some of you are like, I don't know. I've been so confused for the past few months. I've been so stuck. I'm so confused. I don't know. And it could be what leap of faith to take, because that's something we've been talking about the past few videos. It can create that situation where some of you might think that. Okay. But what I want to tell you is that that's not entirely true. You may think you're confused about what to do to fix your situation or to move your situation forward, or unclear, but deep down, you know exactly what needs to be done to move forward. Okay. If you are confused about what to do or what leap of faith to take or how to change your life for the better, it's not because you do not know what to do. It's because you're trying to logically justify it or make logical sense of it, or you're discounting it because it does not make logical sense. So that's another thing I want to say. If you're still confused about what to do at this point in your life to change it, which I know some of you have expressed in the comments in my videos over the past few, it's not, in my opinion, it's not because you're actually confused. You know exactly what to do in your heart. Your heart knows exactly, your soul knows exactly, your emotions know exactly, your intuition know exactly. It's just because you're not honoring it. You're justifying, you're talking yourself out of it. You're discounting it. You're downplaying it. That is going on. And that's what's making you confused. And the minute you stop listening to your logical mind and you tune more into your heart, all of a sudden the answers are going to be clear, crystal clear, and the actions are going to be taken. Okay, that it is that you finally need. So keep that in mind. Okay, anything else that I want to say? Okay, right. And then once you do this, once you tap into your emotions, right, and your heart, then everything else is going to start to change in your life to finally get to the new, different, and better experience that we've been trying to get to since 2020, and for it to start to happen faster. Okay, so I think those are the main themes. An inner struggle between two parts of ourselves at this full moon, which may appear to be related to relationships and money, but aren't, because our external environment is really just a reflection of who we are on the inside. It's an internal struggle at this full moon in Aries. Okay, one part of ourselves knows exactly what needs to be done to improve our situation and to move forward, which is to honor our emotions, and is really excited about that and has a lot of faith and trust and belief in that. And that's our heart, that's our soul, that's our emotions, that's our subconscious, that's our creative mind knows it. Okay. But at the same time that a part of ourselves knows exactly what needs to be done to fix our lives, there's another part of ourselves that's fighting against it. That's the logical mind. That's the conscious mind. That's the small mind. That's the finite mind that doesn't think that following our emotions is realistic or logical, or is worried about it or doubting it or listening to what everyone else is saying or overthinking it. That is hard, fighting against it, making us think we're confused when we're not confused about what needs to be done in our situation that we're going to have to conquer at this time, and that I think we are going to conquer. We are going to conquer, and we're going to conquer by not honoring our logical mind and by having more trust and faith and going all in on our emotions more and more, which is finally going to change our lives for the better. What we've been trying to do since 2020 and pick up the pace to do that between now and next March, right? Next March is when that's going to happen. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions that I think you all might have in the comments? Leaps of faith, right? We talked about that. The past two videos, still more. If you haven't done them, do them. If you haven't done any leaps of faith, do one or two. And if you have been doing leaps of faith, do more. That's a lot of what this full moon is about, going all in, warrior spirit, to do the crazy thing, to take these crazy leaps of faith that it is that you need more, because that's what it is, right? When you're doing something that does not make logical sense, that's based on an inkling, an intuition, a heart, it is a leap of faith because you have no logical proof that it's going to work. So more leaps of faith, more of that. Keep doing them, or doing more, making them bigger, because that's what's going to get you to where you need to go, okay? Okay. And the more you stay stuck practicality, logic, you're not going to get these new experiences. Okay. They're going to take you further away. And I feel like I've made that clear in the past, but maybe I'll just say that now, right? It's like you need to, this is the moment where the people who are going to get a new and better experience of life are going to feel it. For the next few months are going to get it, and where the people who aren't are going to fall behind, okay? Because the people who are ready for the new experience of life and have been learning the lessons are going to take huge leaps of faith, are going to go all in on their passion and their emotions, even if it does not make logical sense, and continue more and more in that direction. And the people who are not ready to move into a new experience, or are not going to get it, are going to be the ones that are going to stop themselves from doing what their heart knows to be true and fall back into logic and practicality and responsibility and all of that. So this is going to be the moment that there's going to be a divide. There's going to be a divide more clearly made between those people. Not only that, but is there anything else I want to note in terms of like a bigger scale, like a collective societal scale? Sure, I suppose I can say another thing, to kind of broaden it a little bit, there's a saying that goes around online, and that maybe has been for quite a few years, which says facts over feelings, right? There's this whole thing. We got to put facts over feelings, especially in politics. Well, that's wrong. Okay, maybe that was true while Pluto was in Capricorn for the past 10 or 15 years, but that's no longer the way it is. It's a new way now. We're doing things in a new way. The new way is feelings over facts. Feelings over facts, okay? More feelings over facts. Feelings have more value at this time than what the facts are. That's what needs to happen. And the more that you're doing facts over feelings, the further away you're going to be taken. Okay. Why is that needed? Well, again, life is a pendulum. And I think for the past few years, we've been doing facts too much. We've been doing too many facts over feelings, which swung us too far in one direction, and we've gotten sorely out of balance, right? And that's a lot from the Pluto and Capricorn. Capricorn's very practical, and now we need to go in the exact opposite direction, feelings over facts, in order to find the balance in the middle. Do you see? Because that's how we find balance. We swing from one extreme to another, until it comes back. We've been way too much facts over feelings the past few years, Pluto and Capricorn. We now need feelings over feelings over facts. I hope I'm saying it right, not confusing myself, in order to bring things together. Okay. Another thing that I want to note about that, some of you may be thinking about this saying of facts over feelings that's been going on for the past few years and be like, well, that's because there were too many emotions. The whole saying facts over feelings was a thing because too many people were using their emotions, and that's not true. Okay. What happens when Pluto gets in a sign is that it demonizes things. It can demonize the other sign and make the other sign seem like the problem when it's not. Okay. And the way that can and when it's not the issue, right? And the way that can manifest, right? Because Pluto was in Capricorn, which I think we're still tying up, especially with Jupiter in the opposite sign of this. When Pluto was in Capricorn, it brought too much Pluto's too much focus on Capricorn, practicality, reality that's going on. It brought so much of a desire for that it then demonized the opposite Cancer feelings. Not because we were doing a lot of Cancer placements. Pluto is where we're doing a lot. Capricorn. Because there's so much of a focus on facts that we're now going to demonize what we weren't doing that much to begin with. We really weren't doing that many feelings to begin with, to make it seem like that's the villain, when that's not the villain. Okay. The villain this whole time has been too many facts and not honoring the feelings. Okay. That's been going on. And now that needs to be corrected. Now we need to start to see things clearly. The whole problem the past few years wasn't that we were being too emotional. The problem the past few years is that we were not honoring our emotions enough. And that got us into situations we didn't want to be in. Right? When you're not honoring your emotions, and when you're doing things you think you should do just because you should do them or they make logical sense, then you get yourself in a lot of situations that really don't resonate with who you are because you didn't really care about them. You're just doing them because you thought you should do them, which is not really that exciting or fulfilling. Okay, so keep that in mind here. We've got to switch it. Feelings over facts, not facts over feelings. Okay, and because that's what needs to happen. And because we never were feelings over facts anyways. It was our intense desire for practicality that switched the villain, right? That made the problem something that it really wasn't with what's happening, okay? And that can get you in a lot of trouble when you're just focusing on, right, when you're out of balance, but also when you're just focusing on the facts too, okay? Now, another thing that I want to note, maybe on more of a political global scale as well, is that this can also create more of a divide, I want to say, in the culture and within people in the world. It can create more of a divide there as well. And I think what you're going to get is a divide, again, between the Jupiter and Cancer people who are honoring the feelings, which is really what we've been learning, right? The side that's been learning, the side that's ultimately going to win. And the Mercury people, the people who are too much about facts or too much about all of that. We're going to start to see more of a divide. I think more of a split there. Not only that, but remember Aries, where the full moon is a warlike sign. So this can bring even more of a conflict there. Not only between that part of ourselves, but between these two parts, these two groups of people in the collective and society, where you're going to have the people who are honoring more of their emotions begin to stand up more to fight. This is an Aries word, the people who are being too logical. And of course, the people who are being too logical to fight the people that are being too emotional. So it can create a big fight there between that can escalate. That can escalate a bit more, which we did talk about earlier this year. So keep that in mind. It's going to bring more of that stark difference between the two sides that's going to happen. Now, again, the side that's going to win is the emotions. That's where we're going at this time. It is the emotions. It is honoring that. But before that happens, there could be a bit of a challenge in regards to that, or a little bit of a conflict that might need to happen that may not fully get resolved until the North Node conjuncts Pluto in Aquarius around the end, I think, of 2027, but really 2028. Okay. So keep that in mind. Okay. Anything else I want to note as well? Right? And maybe why might this conflict escalate between these two sides? Well, they might escalate because people that are honoring their emotions are becoming more strong within that, and it's winning more people over. Okay. So for the past year or so, right, we've been trying to honor more of our emotions, right? We've been trying to do it. either a lot of people haven't been there yet to honoring the emotions, are still stuck in facts, or if they have been honoring their emotions, have been kind of scared to kind of speak up about it or be strong in it. And now that's changing. More people are being won over to the emotions and more people are speaking out about it. And because the tides are kind of turning, right, and more people are waking up to this different way of being and are becoming more strong and assertive about what needs to happen. And because there's people who are left behind, okay, because there's always going to be people left behind in the collective, that there's now a need to have a conflict to get everyone on the same page, right? Because we all need to evolve together. We all need to evolve together in the direction to get where we need to go. Okay, so keep that in mind. Anything else I want to know? Sure. What is it when it says, say, the emotions, right? On more of a socio-political scale. What is this side about? People who honor the emotions, right? That side to me is going to win, may take till 2028, but is going to be the one that's ultimately is the correct one, is going to win more permanently. What does that mean? Well, honoring the emotions, Cancer, has to do with the weak and the vulnerable. It has to do with children. It has to do with women. It has to do with people who are overlooked or who are hurt. It has to do with helping those people, helping women, helping children, helping people who are being overlooked or being discounted or being hurt by society, right? Because when we have feelings, we care about all of that. When we have feelings, we say we don't want people to get hurt. We don't want these things to happen. We don't want genocides. We don't want, child sexual abuse. We don't want these things, right? It's like more people are going to start to stand up for that. And because, right, that's what our emotions engage in, and eventually going to fight for those things as to where the other side will eventually is going to lose. Okay. And that's the other way to think of it too. When you are facts only, when you're more Mercury based, facts only, you can really justify anything, right? It's our emotions that give us a moral compass. It's our emotions that give us integrity in some way when you think about it. It's our emotions that make us say, hey, maybe I shouldn't treat someone that way because I wouldn't want to be treated that way. That would make me feel bad. When we see the world from a pure, factual, logical based place, we can justify even the worst of crimes because, it makes sense, right? The other person, they did something bad to me, so they should have to pay, right? It's like, it's our emotions that give us a moral compass about what needs to be done. And so it's the emotions that are going to fix a lot of things here. And that I think are more people are going to wake up to honor more of. Women, children, the sick, the downtrodden, immigrants. I'm going to put that in there. Jupiter's about traveling. Cancer's about home, to a new home. It's this side that's going to win, that honors the emotions. Women, children, people who are being sick, abused, hurt, immigrants, the people who don't have the home, the poor and needy. It is those people who are going to win, and the other side is going to fight, but is eventually going to, whether I like it or not, either back down or be left behind. So keep that in mind, which I think is going to become more pronounced and accelerate now to the next few months, which may take until 2028 to fully resolve. Okay. Which could create some sort of global fights or conflicts. Okay. All right. So I think that's all that I want to say there. Feelings over facts is really the key, and to go more and more in that direction. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read your inside degrees. So let's do that. The inside degrees weren't written by me. They're written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale, who channeled the meanings of each of the degrees from Spirit. So let's look at them. This full moon is at 14 degrees. Aries, I think the one before, of, and after can all be relevant. So let's start with 13 degrees. It says the spark of being endures. There are cycles within cycles of inexplicable events, strange happenings, blown context, yet your fiery molten core only comes back stronger. I agree with this. I think there's something about this full moon in Aries that's going to renew our passion, our zest, our courage for life, make us feel more motivated, more excited than we've been in a very, very long time, more alive than we've been in a long time. Not only do I think there's something about that can happen, but I think this is the beginning of us coming back stronger. You know, I think a lot of people thought that after 2020, COVID, that our lives were just over and we were never going to be able to be happy again or have a better life. And that's ending. At this full moon in Aries, we're going to realize we can reemerge stronger, that the best life is yet ahead of us, you know, still to be lived. And that we weren't taken out entirely by what happened. We were sharpened and got more wisdom and courage to come back better. Okay. It says the rage to be, coming up against every inhibiting factor that could possibly be drawn in. You have those soul qualities that thrive on crises, emergencies, huge challenges, terrible hurdles. This to me indicates that we have the motivation and drive finally to fight anything holding us back from this different way, which is honoring our emotions and kind of renewing ourselves, and that we're not going to let anything get in our way, and that we have that spirit to do it. Not only does it mean that to me, but keep in mind, look at it says, thrives on crises, emergencies, the rage to be. So this can also indicate on a more world scale, a lot of rage, a lot of, because Aries is also about anger, to fight, to have conflicts, to finally honor our emotions, to get to where we need to be. Okay. It says a force which never lets up, yet conceals itself inside the commonplace. The destiny by indirection, swept away, losing the track and back forth to find the track every time. So this to me indicates that, we may go back and forth. We may go in and out of moments of clarity. We're listening to our heart about what to do next, super clear, and then listening to our logic, lose the clarity. We may go back and forth, having clarity, losing clarity, heart, mind, feelings, facts, but we're eventually going to come back to the place we need to be. We're always going to come back to that place that we need to find that track. It says the twists of fate that keep on happening and demand a form of resiliency, which then becomes the doorway into wide open spaces that no longer polarize and divide. Well, that's a hopeful note. I think that maybe not now, but I think that as a result of what's going on here, especially there's something significant about March. We're going to feel like we're into wide open spaces and no longer at war with ourselves and more at peace. So I think there's that. I think this also indicates too that if there is some sort of more global conflict, that eventually it's going to lead to something better where we can all come together. So I think that's what I'm getting here. A lot of passion, motivation for life, coming back to fight against the odds, to stand up for yourself and what is right, and to go for what you believe. And even if you get lost, you're going to come back to the right place that it is that you need, and it's going to help you feel more at peace. Now there's Aries 14, profligate and prodigal. You are fertile, creative, dynamic, full of bright ideas, resourceful and ingenious, carefree and careless. You concentrate on the spark of the now, tunnel vision. Your talents and abilities extravagantly displayed, a special knack for the individual genius, eccentric and real character. Okay. This to me is what we need to be doing. We need to be carefree and careless for a change. I think we do need to be that way, right? This part of following your emotions. It's part of doing things that don't logically make sense. You feel like you're being carefree and careless. I think there's a part of us that needs to go in that direction and have tunnel vision on that and not listen to anything else that's telling us otherwise. And I think a lot of us are going to do it. That's going to help us. Okay, let's read on. It says ornery, not really listening, self-implied, tuned into interest and capacities, tune out everything else. You're going forward regardless. Got to get there. But the blind spots add up. So there's a lot of drive here, I think, to do things in this different way, honoring our emotions. Okay, let's read on. It says reckoning and conflicts, confronted with what has been denied, wildly unrepentant. You are the hardest one to convince, yet the one who knew it all along. The advantages and the disadvantages of taking a special angle and following it all the way no matter what. Well, the special angle that we're following all the way is honoring our emotions, taking huge leaps of faith that do not make logical sense. Okay, that's what we're following all the way. And it's interesting. It said that there are challenges, right, and blind spots that can add up from taking this special angle. But I'm going to be honest, I think that it's good. I think we need to have laser vision. I think we need to have laser focus on this different way that honors our emotion. I think that having a blind spot in this case, I'm going to see it as a positive thing. And if there is a blind spot, the blind spot is the part of ourselves that still thinks we need logic or is over justifying things. Okay. Or the people, the groups of people that haven't learned that lesson that are behind, they have a blind spot. So that's my thought here. You have to go all in on this different way and have tunnel vision for it and not worry about the blind spots and trust your kind of motivation and your feelings and your passion. And because I think even if you to combine that with Aries 13, get off track, it's going to bring you back. You're going to come back to where it is that you need to be. All right, let's look at Aries 15. The last one, it says super tuned in, the personification embodiment of what it looks like, feels like, and is like to have an inside track on everything going on around you, uncanny awareness. You have the gift of getting across new ways of being, different ways of looking at things, somehow getting away with being so very different that it no longer matters. Okay. I think that this means that these new ways are going to work. The new ways of honoring our emotions and taking this leap of faith is going to work. And that the more we do it, it's not going to feel so foreign anymore, right? The more that we do these leaps of faith and the more that we follow our emotions more and more and more, it's not going to feel so scary. It's not going to feel so foreign. It's not going to feel so different. It's going to just feel better and normal and natural, which is the way that it's meant to be. Okay. Hot wired to wild and uncomfortable truths. You have special radar for undertones and nuances, motivations, and signs of what is going on underneath. The direct front row seat upon who the other is and the challenges and opportunities the other bring before you. When you are ready and eager for the encounter, and you can always find a way to move with absolutely anything that might arise. So this to me indicates us having a lot of starting to get a waking up, a lot of awareness now about where we've been falling short or what's been keeping us stuck and how to move forward. So I think there's a lot of insights about that and about what to do to get out of our situation. I do think there's a lot of clarity that can come from this, especially as more and more time goes on. That's happening. And there's also like a willingness to confront people. To seed upon who the other is and the challenges and opportunities. There's more of a willingness to confront relationships and let go of people in your life that have been keeping you stuck. And also, if there's some sort of global conflict, I think there's more of a willingness to finally kind of have that and figure out where everyone stands and what everything is and move on from there. That's going on. Okay. And I think that's it. Yeah, finally figuring out what this finally going all in. That's what I'm going to say. Finally going all in on this new way, which is honoring our emotions and taking the big leap of faith in them, especially if they don't make logical sense, and trusting that they're going to work out, which is going to renew our zest and our passion for life. And we really need to have tunnel vision on that and focus on that and what that is. And if there are blind spots when it comes to that, they're going to work themselves out naturally. They're going to work themselves out. We're going to find our footing, I think, every time, and come back better to where we need to be and not be so afraid to face anything that may come up. All right, now let me go ahead and let me pull your card. Okay. All right, your card. For this is it's the Seven of Cups. Here we go again. It's the Seven of Cups upright. And at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Six of Pentacles upright. The Seven of Cups can indicate some confusion about what to do, but I already kind of discussed this earlier. If you're feeling confused, it's not because you're actually confused. It's because you're ignoring what your heart is saying and you're trying to make it make logical sense, or you're discounting it because it doesn't make logical sense. So there shouldn't be, the confusion about what is happening, right? Or right, the Six of Pentacles is about balance. If there is some confusion, not only is it because you're trying to make it make logical sense, but maybe you're trying to be balanced. Maybe that's also an issue. Maybe some of you are like, well, I want to do a little bit of my emotions and a little bit of logic. No. Doing a little bit of your emotions and a little bit of logic means doing neither fully, and we need to do the emotions fully. So don't halvesies. There's no halvesies on following your emotions. You have to go all in here. on what's important. The Six of Pentacles sometimes too can be relational. Maybe there's some worry about what relationships are going to say. So this is also a sign too. You got to stop listening to other people, especially if they're advising you against something your heart is telling you to do, or might need to end some of those relationships that are imbalanced, right? Where they're not honoring what your emotions are saying. What else? Another thing that I want to note is some of you may be like, okay, I'm following my heart, but my heart has a lot of passions, a lot of options. Maybe this is what the Seven of Cups is saying. And maybe some of you are like, I have so many ideas, I don't know which one to do first. And if that's you, then the thought is just pick one, right? You just pick one and you just go for it, because when you start to do one, all the others will just start to work themselves out more naturally. Don't stress about what to do first, second, or third. Just pick the one that you're the most excited about. Okay. The Six of Pentacles, maybe another thought, sometimes can be about like accepting scraps. I think there's a need to not accept scraps from people and to realize that you're worthy of more and can have more and can have better, and to let yourself have better things. So I think there's some of that as well, to believe that you can have more or have better than what you have, and to kind of let yourself have it and go get that. In the way that you might need. Okay. Any examples? Yeah, I didn't give any examples. Maybe I'll give you some examples really quickly. Maybe some of you have been trying to figure out what to do with your home. Do I move or do I not move? I think your heart knows if you should move or not and where you should move, but maybe your logical mind's trying to talk you out of it. You need to listen more to your heart. And if you've already moved, then your heart might be telling you more stuff to do with your home. You need to listen to that instead of trying to talk yourself out of it. Okay, right? Maybe this is a job thing. Your heart's telling you need to change a job, get a different job, something like that. Maybe your mind's telling you, oh, I can't make money, I'm not going to do it. Well, you need to listen to your heart. And if you've already changed your job, then you need to listen to your heart more now. Now that you're in this job, what lights you up? What's your heart saying? What's next? Follow the heart. That's the compass to get you to where you need, right? If it's a relationship issue, you don't know, should I leave a relationship? Should I not? You do know. What does your heart say? Is your heart in it? Does it light you up or does it not? Right? And listen to your heart. And then after you end that, or whatever it is your heart's telling you with that relationship, then the next thing is to check in with your heart again. What does your heart want? What does it want to do now? And to keep following that step by step by step, because that's going to get you to where you need, and to follow the unknown. Maybe that's another thought here. The Seven of Cups can indicate uncertainty, right? The point is to be okay following the unknown. And that's kind of what happens when you follow your heart. When you follow your heart, you don't have a 10-year plan. Well, I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to do this second, I'm going to do that third. When you follow your heart, you just listen to what your heart says. You don't know what your heart is going to want. You have to constantly tune into your heart, and then you constantly check in with it over time. Just like holding a lamp, to give you a metaphor, like in the dark and you're holding a lamp or a flashlight, you don't see the whole road ahead. You just see the road in front of you. And that's kind of the way your heart is, right? If we want to say that, considering the lamp has light, fire in it, right? Is like you just follow your heart a little bit. And then once you get there, you'll check in with your heart again and you'll get the next steps. And then once you get there, you'll check in with your heart again and you'll get the next step. So the goal is not to have your whole 10-year plan laid out. The goal is to constantly check in with your heart and to listen to that, because as long as you're checking in with your heart, you'll know exactly what you need to do when you need to do it. And to not think too far ahead. When you honor your emotions, you're living more in the present. Okay, so I think that's also going to help some of you too. And I think that's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that you have a good full moon in Aries. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube, subscribe, post in the comments, and I'll talk to you 2 weeks from now on that next new moon in the sign of Libra.